Get ready for some jaw-dropping entitled parent stories. Story 1. My mother is mad at me because I don't want to talk to her. So it's basically what the title says. I'm 21, I just got a new job, and I'm looking to move out in the next 6 months. God willing, everything goes to plan. But anyways, my mother has stated in the past that she doesn't want to work, and that she wants someone to take care of her. She doesn't care if it's me, my uncle, or a boyfriend. She just wants someone to always do everything for her. I'm sick of it. Because every time I've gotten a job in the past, she's wanted my money for her things. The main thing that sticks out to me was when I got my first job at 15, after I got paid my first check, she demanded I paid for her cigarettes. And when I said I wasn't going to, she started an argument with me in the car and wouldn't stop until I gave her my debit card. I just got a new job as an STNA, which if you don't know is a state-tested nursing assistant. I have a license to do nursing care in my state. I have orientation for this job on Wednesday, but the thing that I'm writing this about is what just happened. She came into my room and asked me if I thought that there was mold, and I said that I don't know. I've never given it much thought if there was or not. She then told me, "You don't think about anything." Then shut my door and left and called my uncle and told him this. Then she started saying how I only care about my computer. I do Twitch and YouTube on the side to earn extra money, so that's why I'm on my computer. She then started saying the dog we have is annoying, and that she wants to put our perfectly healthy dog down just because she doesn't take the dog outside, and then blames it on me when the dog poops and pees in the house. She acts like she's always mad at me because I don't want to talk to her. Because if I tell her what I'm really thinking about a lot of situations, it'll cause a huge blow-up argument, so I just ignore it and don't say anything. I just don't know if I'm the one in the wrong here. I should also preface that according to my godmother and both of my uncles, she's a diagnosed bipolar and refuses to take her meds. I also think she's a narcissist because she wants everyone and everything to cater to her wants and needs. Story 2. No emergency contact. It's so strange and unfortunate to not be able to have a person as an emergency contact coming from such an incredibly toxic family. Oppressed. I come from a family of people who likes to beat you down when you're at your lowest. My sweet and only friend passed away 3 years ago, and my dad found joy by stating that his death is God's will, while laughing about it. Of course, he's using his influence to make it seem as if he's a concerned parent after I went no contact. I pretty much cut off a lot of those relatives as they were trying to manipulate me into giving them information and likely force me back into toxic ties with my immediate family. How would you guys deal with not having an emergency contact? Story 3. My dad slaps my butt. Is this normal? I am 14. He's done this since I was 9 as far as I can remember. The first time he did it, I was trying to pick out a TV show, and he walks by out of nowhere and slaps my butt. I didn't even have time to think about it before I instantly started crying. I'm not sure what my dad's reaction was, but my mom and aunt were there, and my aunt told my mom I was faking my tears, despite the fact I wasn't, and told her so. He's done it before. When I'm bending over looking for something in the fridge or in drawers, he started laughing when he saw I was uncomfortable. I haven't explicitly told him I'm uncomfortable with it, but I feel like actions and facial expressions are enough for him to tell. Like I literally walked away from him, and he was still laughing. He's someone who I just don't want to interact with but have to, because he's my father. He likes to push and argue about my boundaries. For example, I've stated I don't like him staring at me. I've woken up to him staring at me, and he started an argument in the hospital with me, using the excuse that he's my father, and he can stare if he wants. He touches my hair, something I hate people doing without permission due to my mother pulling it when I was younger, and forcefully pulls me in and wraps his arm around my shoulder while addressing the fact I'm uncomfortable with him. I feel awkward just being in a room with him. I feel like I can't talk to my mother when he's there, even if it's not about him or something normal. He has a history of dating younger girls, which is a major part of the reason why I dislike him so much. For example, he and my mother have a 7-year age gap between them. They first saw each other when she was 8 and he was 16 or 15. They didn't officially meet until she was 17 and worked in the same place as him. By this time, he had already been married and had his first child with someone. I'm not sure if he was divorced. She ignored him for 3 years due to being uncomfortable with him, confessing he had feelings for her. Due to dating his friends, they started talking to each other again. He told her he was kicked out of his mother's house because of a fight with her, and she agreed to have him live with her. He kissed her when she was crying, and during that same year, she became pregnant with me. He cheated on her throughout the entire time, according to her. His most recent that he's physically met was an 18-year-old, I think. I've also heard arguments between them where my mom said that he told her the girl was 18. She sounded very upset when he said this, like she was implying that he lied to her. I've also heard her say that he was dating a minor, same girl, in different fight. In the past few months, there was an argument between them where my mother said she found him messaging 14-year-old girls, though if I heard it right, they didn't reply back. So yeah, I'm not sure how to feel about all this. Edit. Just so everyone knows, my aunt does not live in my home anymore and hasn't for years. Most of my family, except for that aunt, and she lives in a different city, live overseas. I don't have anyone to talk to because it's literally just been me and my parents for about 5 years. I only talk to family on my mother's side, which from what I know have all suffered from generational trauma. The only one I think might even manage to actually at least recognize my mental health issues is the youngest aunt, who told my mom that she, youngest aunt, wouldn't care if she, mom, died of starvation because dad messaged youngest aunt behind mom's back and started venting to her and calling my mom a pedo BC. She dated a 19 years old on Fortnite. I am not even joking or trolling. I gotta live with this. And even then, I barely talk to my youngest aunt and do not trust texting her due to my mom previously looking through my messages and implying I had a secret code with my cousin who can't read and getting annoyed about 3 deleted texts with him. Edit. I talked to Rain, which led me to Child Help, which is now telling me to contact CPS and make a report if I want to get law enforcement, and to make a log of things my parents have said and done to me if I don't have proof. They also sent me a link to make a report of child abuse in my state. I am also remembering worse things, like my mom raising my shirt when we were hiking and showing my grandma on vacation, so we were visiting my chest to say I turned out like my aunt. Also that time where I was trying on pants and showing my mom how they looked, and my dad came out of nowhere to check the tag, which meant looking inside my pants, which I didn't like, so I physically pulled away, and he got pissed and mentioned how he saw me naked as a baby. He got so mad he left the house to go smoke. And the time where I was changing in a store and my grandma walked in with no warning to give me more pants, and when I told her not to do that, she brushed it off. I was so uncomfortable I cried to my parents about it afterwards. And the time where I was 8, 7, and changing in the bathroom, to which my grandma walked in to use it, and I told her to not do that, to which she responded, we were both girls, so it was fine. Loudly crying, WTF. Story 4. My parents want privacy, but my privacy doesn't matter. My parents do not want me to see what they are doing, but what I am doing has to be revealed or it will create a drama in the house. My privacy is a joke. Also, my big sister is the clear favorite child, as they always prefer her over me. She doesn't want me to use my phone and not to watch anything and just want me to study. Whenever it's my free time and I am taking a break from study, I like to use my phone to lighten my mood, but they want me to shut it down and go study again. I don't think that this is normal behavior of a parent. They have told me to delete my social media apps, I am 16, and told me not to study from phone and only study day to night. Is this normal? Edit. Now they are asking for my phone to go through my chats. Am fucked. 5. Restrictive parents care too much about location of first job, 21M, after college. One piece of annoying and honestly stupid advice my parents have given me throughout college is that the location of my internships / first job after college should be a priority. For context, I'm from the suburbs of Massachusetts and will be working in big tech, NYC, after I graduate from college this spring. This is at arguably the most prestigious company in the field. Note, I'll use terms like mid-tier company and top company, not to sound pretentious, but just to give context on the situation. Throughout college, my parents would insist that I find jobs in Massachusetts. The only reason they're fine with most places on the East Coast is because it's not that far from home. However, if it was something like California, they see that as a significant negative. Honestly, although I never really had too much of a problem with location of my internship / job, this advice affected my mentality throughout college. Freshman and sophomore year, instead of applying anywhere and everywhere, I would not apply to internships far away because I was subconsciously thinking of what would please my parents. Even junior year, I applied to internships out of state, but if asked what I prefer, I would always mention East Coast, and even had the mindset that a job in Mass would be ideal. I even told a recruiter in an interview once that location was a top priority because I prefer to be close to my family, even though this was really only because of my parents. For my junior year internship, all my internship offers were out of state, so it didn't matter. My internship was at a top company. However, I think since I wasn't used to advocating for myself against my parents, if I had gotten an internship at a less recognized company in Mass, my parents might have convinced me to take the latter internship because of location, even though the former was much better for my career. I know this because sophomore year, I worked at a good defense contractor, which was very good for a sophomore internship. However, the internship is definitely not as good as a big tech internship for junior summer. I got an offer at a big tech company. My dad suggested that I try to see if I can get a better offer at the defense contractor. Although you can negotiate, it's clear that the defense contractor can't compete with the big tech company in terms of salary, and my dad knows that. And internship salary wasn't the thing that mattered. It was new grad salary. And although the contractor provides a good salary for new grad, the big tech company provides a much better salary, even accounting for cost of living. The only reason my parents were even suggesting to still consider the contractor is purely because of location, which is terrible advice. Also, it wasn't even just about salary. The specific big tech companies I got offers from are better for career growth than the defense contractor. The only thing that was better about the contractor was location, which I don't think is crucial in most cases for a new grad. It's really only now that I realize the location of the first job shouldn't be the main priority, especially if it's in a big tech hub like NY or Cali. If the only option at my company was to work in Cali, I would have still advocated against my parents to take it over a worse offer in a close location, even if the latter offer was still decent. My parents honestly expect me to sacrifice what's optimal for my early career for their comfort in me being close to home, which is honestly stupid. When I have a conversation about this subject with my parents, their argument will be, what if there were a job that pays the same in mass? A hypothetical job in mass for new grads that pays similarly as to the top company I'll be working at doesn't even exist in the first place. There are obviously times where it makes sense to make these sacrifices, like if you have kids and a family. But I'm literally a college grad. I don't understand how my parents think it should be a priority. Obviously, I think it's reasonable to make it a consideration if you have multiple competing offers in your hand. But making it a main priority as a college senior searching for jobs is completely ridiculous. And the fact that my parents keep insisting is honestly annoying. I'm glad I ended up muting this advice while job hunting later in college because it honestly could have damaged my early career. This may sound like a rant, but I'm wondering if anyone has had a similar experience and how you handled/would have handled this situation. Story 6. My mom broke my phone over me looking for a youth group/center in my area. Hi, I'm typing this from my computer since I no longer have my phone. Yes, I was looking for a youth group to go to, mostly to get out more, talk more, and have fun with people who understand me. I found an LGBT youth group in my area and put it in my bookmarks. This was late at night, so I decided to just turn it off, plug it in, and go to bed. I guess my mom checked my phone early that morning, before she went to work since, when I woke up, she was sitting in my office chair just kind of looking at me. I could tell she wasn't happy at all. When I asked her what was wrong, she opened my phone to the youth group and slammed it onto my desk. It wasn't broken yet, but it had jolted me awake. I tried to explain to her why I wanted to join, said that I wanted to get out more, learn some more things, make some more friends. But she didn't listen. She was saying that I just wanted to join for the gay crap and that I wanted to rebel against her, going on and on about how I was being indoctrinated, and that if I just went to insert church names group, I would be happier. For more context, I didn't want to be in that church group for multiple reasons. I went to that church group years ago when I was 9, and most of it was just them getting mad at me for nothing, saying I was being rude, not listening, etc. I did listen and wrote down what I needed to, since there was a workbook they would give us. It felt like they would just get me in trouble, just to get me in trouble. I had asked to go somewhere else years ago, but my parents didn't take me out of it until I was 11. Now they want to send me back, even though they know how miserable I was the last time. I had to explain why I didn't want to go again, but she got mad and said, fine, you want to keep watching that confusing nonsense, then you won't have a phone to watch it on then. She was going to take off with my phone, but I just grabbed it out of instinct, since I need that phone to communicate with my teachers. Plus, I use it for my photography class. If I didn't have it, then my grades would drop badly since I would have to find another way to take pictures. My mom's reaction to this was to throw my phone onto the floor and then step on it with her shoes multiple times like it was on fire or something. So now I have no phone. Interesting start to the new year, I guess. Story 7. How to explain that I shouldn't have to share intimate details about my relationship with family. I, 22F, have been dating my boyfriend for over 2 years. At first, my family was supportive and invited him over several times, even to stay nights. It's confusing because there are moments they are very kind to him, but other times they question his values and his truthfulness regarding pretty heavy things when he's been open about many personal struggles and has only ever been generous with his time, energy, and money. Lately, I'm getting accused of being cold, distant, and different, despite talking with family 1 to 3 hours per day and helping with things like paperwork, booking appointments, etc. I now live away from home because I don't share a lot of details about my relationship, like how often we talk every week, if we're sexually active, and his family's lives. I've even been criticized for not sharing details about the health status of one of his friends they met a couple times. I've been told I've been brainwashed when I tried explaining that there are some things about our relationship and his personal life that I either A, don't think are relevant to them, so why should they know, or B, aren't appropriate to share with other people. I really do think some things should be kept between couples, but I'm being told that my not sharing shows that I'm, in a way, choosing him over my family. I used to share basically everything with him, and now that I don't, it's a problem. Part of the concern is that because my boyfriend isn't close with his family, I've stopped being close with mine. But his situation is entirely different because they've always been very physically and emotionally abusive. I tried explaining myself and giving examples of things I've done for them and reassuring that I will always be available to help and give time and love. But apparently I'm a liar, since I've also confessed I've felt scared to be honest about things in the past because I wasn't sure how they'd react. E.g., I've been made to feel guilty for wanting to spend a completely normal amount of time with my BF before, and sometimes when I've been upset have been invalidated. I've been told, since you couldn't be open about things in the past, how do we know you're not lying when you say you're there for us? And true love is completely honest and transparent, implying I don't actually love them. Now, I'm being threatened to be cut off financially and told that if I want to go my own way, I can. I also was criticized for wanting to go on a short trip with him, even though I wouldn't be sacrificing my studies, and him and I would pay for everything. Him spending money on this instead of saving up is also being scrutinized, even though he has a stable job. Story 8. Shitty Wicked movie experience. I was really excited to see Wicked, but there were two shitty parents who let their kids talk through the entire first half. Not just talk, but scream. One little girl kept saying, "What's that?" every 5 seconds. IDK, who many kids there were, but I think 2 or 3. I was at the back, and were some empty seats at the front. I went there thinking it would help, but seeing as they were in the middle of, really didn't. At the halfway mark, one found a staff member and asked them to tell the parents to quiet their kids. The kids shut up with their vocal cords, but one boy kept running up and down the aisle, which caused noise and distracted me because I was right next the aisle. I felt bad for the kids because they were clearly bored out of their mind. I'm not saying kids can't like Wicked, but it's not made for kids. The most frustrating thing was the lobby outside was empty, and the kids could have run up and down to their heart's content. But the parents just had to not miss anything, and instead ruined it for everyone else. If you have to see Wicked, get a babysitter. And if you can't get one, then keep your kids quiet. Give them some snacks, or an iPad, IDK. Just make sure you're not being antisocial to everyone around you. Story 9. My mom called me an abuser yesterday evening, even though she physically and emotionally abused me for my entire life. Don't want to go too much into it, but to summarize quickly. 9. I was doing online work that I had to complete within a certain time limit that requires your utmost attention. Before I started, I went outside to feed the stray cats who were hungry at my doorstep. I then went to go work. All was well until my mom asked me to go clean up something. I told her that I was busy, and I would get it done once I'm finished. Reminder, time limit. All is well. Even though I was on a time limit, I still went and briefly cleaned off what she told me to. I didn't fully check it over, but I still tried to quickly do it. I knew that I probably had to recheck over it when I finished working, but I didn't have the time. All was well. I finished my work. It took a while because I have attention and motivation issues. Keep in mind I had just finished, and I was on my way to the kitchen. Now keep in mind, I did try to clean it up, but while I was working, and did not finish. Then it happened all at once. My mom stood in front of me with this mean, frightening look on her face. She then started screaming and hollering at me and cussing me out because she said I didn't do what she says. I realized I accidentally left the fork on the couch I fed the cats with, and I immediately apologized. I hadn't realized I had because I was working. Tried to explain myself and apologize, but she ignored me and kept screaming at me. I told her I tried to do better, and I actually tried, but she didn't care. She said I didn't try hard enough to clean up or whatnot. I kept apologizing to diffuse the situation, but she kept escalating it and getting more and more angry and swearing more and more at me. I told her numerous times I didn't like when she swore at me and calls me names bitch, motherfucker, N*GGA, I'm black. But she refuses to listen. I acknowledged my mistake and I was going to clean it up afterwards, but my mom kept yelling. And then, out of nowhere, she called me her abuser. She said I fucking abused her. I fucking abused her? She says I treated her badly ever since I was a toddler. She blames me as a toddler for mistreating me, and I couldn't believe my ears. Here's a list of what my mom has done to me to show you just how hypnotical she is. As a kid, I was emotionally abused for as young as I remember, being called swear words and names even since I was a little kid. I didn't just face normal spankings as a kid. I was stripped down to my bare ass and spanked sometimes in front of people. The most brutal spanking is when I was hit outside in the backyard with a long extension cord. Another time I was sat on by her while she whooped me. Faced punishments as a child by not only her but by one of my first grade teachers. The teacher in question required bad kids to hold multiple creates of books up for an extended period of time. Allowed a student in our class to be beat with a belt by her father in front of all of us. Told us black children we could dress up at school as slaves during Black History Month. My mother had me stand on one leg or up on all fours for what seemed to be more than 30 minutes. And we were not allowed to put them down. My mom would then fall asleep and leave us standing up until she said to stop. I was kicked out of the house at age 12 2 times for 4 weeks in total and had to live in a group home, which essentially was like a prison. Couldn't leave except for school, no phones or technology, had to go through a scanner every day. They paid us a bit of money for doing work and took us to the movies like twice, but in return, I had to stay in a room with another random kid and was not allowed to leave besides going to the restroom and taking a bath, or going to school, out. I was forced to get therapy over things my mom reported in my paperwork. One such thing is, I lie to hurt other people, and numerous other misinformation, without ever consulting me beforehand. I was sent twice after I was caught being on my Chromebook for school when I wasn't supposed to. I was screaming and crying as I was forced to pack my bags and was dropped off at the location. I wasn't even 12. Invaded my privacy numerous times, going through my notebooks and my drawings and shit-talking them to my relatives without my permission. Stood in front of me while she went through my personal notebook and I couldn't do anything to stop her. It was one of the few things I had to cope. Threatened to break my things, watched me in the dark while I was drawing in my room without saying anything, and proceeded to yell at me when she caught a glimpse of what I was drawing. Threatened me and my siblings with a gun. It was unloaded. She revealed a while it happened, supposedly, as a way to defend her actions, but that doesn't fucking matter. I thought I was going to die and get shot by mom, and we were forced to do sit-ups and push-ups while being held at gunpoint. All because someone used her soap. In middle school, she used to throw everything to the ground if my room was messy, so I'd have a pile of items and shit on my floor to clean up. This happened every once in a while, and I'd come home to it to pick it up. Religious trauma. Was raised in what technically was a cult. There's a lot more she did, I don't feel like going into it. I discussed some of the other things in detail on my profile. Update. This isn't the act where I posted it. I don't remember the name of the account, but if I find it, I will post it in the comments. This is just a shit posting alt. So after I heard that, I completely mentally lost it and had a mental meltdown and started screaming, and this is what happened. Oh, hell nah, you're not gonna do that in my house. Go and scream outside. I was kicked outside. I was wearing nothing but pajamas and socks. No shoes. On the porch. In the snow. There was a blizzard a few days ago. And freezing weather. I managed to tell her as she was kicking me out that I hated her. Nice. I sat outside crying fully a mess until she told me to come back inside 30 minutes later. She did briefly come outside and said that she better not hear me say I hate her again. She said she knew I hated her, but I finally said it out loud, which isn't even true. She just kept yelling and provoked me to say it. I then ran into my room covering my face in tears. This was yesterday. My mom never apologized, never asked how I was doing, nothing. I don't have her, but I hate her actions, which are despicable. She never acknowledges or takes blame for what she does. I can see right through her. She deliberately tried to make me upset because it makes her feel in a position of power and control over someone. She hates her life and goes and takes it out on me and my siblings as a way to deflect blame. She deliberately knew that what she was doing made me upset and intentionally did that to see me upset. She was already upset and was looking for an excuse, any small mistake I did, to shift blame to me for her feelings and for her to feel validated. And once she found it, she went off on me. That's what I think happened. I'm done talking. I am working on getting a job and getting out of there and going no contact whenever I can move out. I will move out as soon as possible. I am not going to call the police. Instead, give her what she wants. She wants me to leave so bad and constant asks me when I'm leaving. Now, I'm disabled and struggle to find work. So when I do so, I'm leaving and I won't be contacting her. I think having her in a nursing home with no one visiting her because of her shitty actions is more punishment than going to prison. Update. Please do not call my mother a witch or a monster. She is not evil, but she is seriously ill and refuses to get help or change. And keep in mind, she thinks what she's doing is right, and she seems to have a personality disorder. She is sometimes the nicest person ever, and on other days she's extremely cruel and mean. She thinks that she is doing the right thing, and that she's trying to help me. A truly evil person would not think that. If anyone calls my mother names, you will be blocked immediately. You still don't know her, so you don't get to decide if she's evil based on my testimony. I've seen evil people before, but she isn't one just seriously misguided and ill. I come here for support because I don't have anyone in my life. I didn't post this to give you permission to call my mother names. I'm the only one who can do that. You can't. Story 10, 25. Bluff's parents have complete control of him, despite him renewing his lease today. None of us can break through to him. He's 25. This is insane. They have alienated us for a month. We were going to have dinner tonight and snuggle, and I got a mystery text. Can't make it. Plans changed. We worked so hard to get him moved out last year. So many people on here can't leave because of financial issues. He saved up a massive amount of money, 4 years worth of rent, and had a full-time job. We all rallied behind him. His friends, and my friends, our coworkers. He had a village. Over a period of a year, we uncovered a misdiagnosis, confirmed by specialists, and he was able to get off the meds. They had him erroneously diagnosed with bipolar after he had reacted to his abuse and got the cops called on him and hauled to the psych unit. We were also able to get him to a neuropsychologist and uncover what's really been going on, OCD and ADHD. His parents say the diagnosis is false. Any doctor he's seen while he was with me are all wrong. When they found out I was helping with all of this, they lost their shit, started calling me a controlling abuser. They have confiscated his currently prescribed meds and forced him on the old ones he worked so hard to get off of. He made a perfectly normal, legal $500 purchase related to health. They forced him to destroy it. We recently found a therapy program to address all these issues, but now he says he can't be honest because he's now doing it from their house. They forced him to delete all photos of me. They are tracking his every movement. Any attempt he makes to speak up, they tell him he's too mentally ill, doesn't know what he's talking about. Anytime he says NO, they say he's an adolescent, they're sick of his little drama, etc. Still has 2 months on the current lease, but every time he wants to go home, he gets beleaguered. Every time he says no, they spend hours turning into a yes. They will bombard him with endless texts and calls. He's constantly interrogated. He's constantly told he will fail without them. He's constantly told he's too disabled to do this on his own. They're forcing him to go to college despite him having said not ready 100 times. In a field he has no aptitude for or interest in. He had said so many times, these choices are not his own. He still has his own apartment. Today his mother was going to pack everything up, even though he has 2 months left. He told all of us he knows how wrong this is, took the plunge today and renewed the lease. And then they found out, and he disappeared again. Can't make it. Plans changed. My friend and I walked to his apartment, and of course he was not there. Yesterday and today he talked about how he knows how wrong this all is. He took the plunge and renewed the lease. They immediately demanded he contact property management and tell them he changed his mind. I'm exhausted, I'm spent, I'm sick, and he will not listen to anyone and keeps choosing this. Last time he lived there, he slept with a Glock under his bed, ready to end his life because he said he never even knew there was the option to just leave. He's talked about learned helplessness, being controlled this way his whole life, and Stockholm Syndrome. We helped him do that. We all rallied around him for his safe passage, and now he's gone back. Story 11. Me and my boyfriend are both 18. My dad treats me entirely different from my brothers and their relationships. First off, I don't even know if this goes here. I apologize in advance if that isn't the case, and I don't mind removing it. Currently living at home since my college is close, my boyfriend wanted to get emancipated from his mom since middle school. My parents always offered him to stay here. Now that he's 18, him staying here seems very threatening to my father in particular. We are both reserved people and follow whatever my father asks by leaving the door wide open, even though my room is in the center of the house, in the living room close to theirs, and my door is basically paper thin. My brother, who mostly stays at his bio-mom's house, currently has his girlfriend living with him due to her family having problems. They sleep together and get to significantly more, although not always here because they just don't have a place/room to stay in. Not to mention my older brother, when he was my age, got to sleep in his basement room, the furthest away, door closed with his girlfriend. Me and him at the time only had a poorly made divider, but I remember it clearly. I told them this, and they basically blew up about how they don't want to talk about this right now and how it's irrelevant. Whenever I'd go over to my boyfriend's or to his bio dad's when he visited, he's from the UK and is only able to visit a couple times a year, my father immediately became entitled to know whether or not we are in the same room, even if we are on the same floor of the house. It became a huge issue. I never spoke about it after that because it raised issues each time. On New Year's, they got drunk, as they do each weekend, and said that it was fine, we could sleep in the same room. This was my boyfriend's first time ever being allowed to stay over at my house because his mom is extremely controlling, to keep it short. And I was very surprised, but we went to sleep and had no issue. The next morning I could tell he seemed pissed and I didn't question it because I knew it would have led to an argument. Last night, as I'm typing this at 4 a.m., was his second time staying over. I assumed since it was fine last time, I keep the door wide open and my room is literally in the center of the house, there'd be no issue. Not the case. Got lectured before I could even say a single thing, being told if I even fall asleep in there accidentally he can't stay over. They always assume the worst immediately and don't bother to listen when I ask questions. I try to talk with them about this regularly, but get shut down immediately because it's apparently too stressful for them. My mom comes asking what's wrong and I try to tell her it's exactly this, how I get treated so differently from my brothers on various occasions and how it's hurtful to me. She then panics and freaks out as if it were the worst thing I could have said, so I just don't say anything anymore. She's talked to my father about how apparently different I'm treated compared to them, which is surprising considering how passive she typically is, and he just says, I know. Sometimes I feel so genuinely disconnected from him because of things like this. I know I shouldn't feel this way and I should just sit and listen, but a part of me wants to be viewed as a person. I can tell my mom wants to say otherwise, but she always follows what he says, as if she has not a say in anything. That's how it's been, and I don't ever see that changing, unfortunately. There are just so many instances of everything I talked about happening, and I feel so conflicted about these emotions I feel regarding them. It feels like I shouldn't, because of them saying how much they do for me, how much they bust their ass to feed me, etc. Me and my boyfriend have never had the chance to travel. My family was too big and we could never afford it, and his mom didn't let him to anything when he was growing up. We wanted to plan a trip. Nothing far nor expensive, as I'm still in college and he's going to be soon, but something new to celebrate him being independent from his mom finally, and for our anniversary. And to be entirely honest, I have been horrified of the thought of bringing it up, because I know they will try to take control of whatever I'm doing. I understand I'm living in their house, I get it, and I'm very grateful for all I've been given, and have. I'm incredibly lucky to live the way I do, to live close to college and to not worry about it. But there's just that part of me that feels unheard and walked over. I wish I wouldn't have to walk on eggshells around them. I really can't tell if all these feelings are irrational, and these instances are completely right for them to feel. They are good people. It just feels a little bit unfair how I'm treated too blatantly different from my brothers, without even denying it. It hurts a lot. I hope I don't sound like a whiny kid, but it all feels really upsetting. Story 12. Helicopter parents are helping me find housing, and it is kind of driving me crazy. 21M. I'm a 21 male who has helicopter parents. Of actions. I've gotten used to it, but recently their actions are kind of becoming annoying. I'll be graduating from college this spring, and I have a job lined up that will be paying a salary around $135 to $150K, with about $210 to $220K total compensation. Lately, my parents have become pretty annoying in terms of looking for housing. I'm about 7 months from my start date, but my parents are particularly neurotic about looking for housing. I understand that I should start early, but we are literally recently traveled the city I'll be working in to look for housing without any really plan at the type of housing we will be looking at. A lot of people don't start looking at all 2 to 3 months before their start date. I think in my case, it's good to start looking at now, but I see no reason to literally travel to the city I'll be working at without any plan. I don't have a problem with my parents helping me look for housing, but what's annoying is that they feel that they have to basically babysit me during the housing process. I really don't need my parents' help for the most part in terms of this, though I would appreciate some help, but I feel like the amount of help they're trying to give is a bit extreme. What are your thoughts? Story 13. Controlling, unsupportive family. And aunt. So this one's a bit of a doozy, so bear with me here. TW for ED and straight up hostage. So until last year, I, 25F, had suffered extreme depression and had little to no motivation to clean, keep a job, etc. because of a really abusive ex. I went through a horrible ED as well. But instead of being supportive, my mother decides to tell me to stop being depressed and began yelling at me for it. This went on for a while, even going as far as to get physically abusive. She decided eventually she was going to force me to get disability, yelling at me to sign things, secretly reapplying when I kept getting denied, evaluations showing I clearly didn't need it, wouldn't let me get another car after mine broke down because I'll work, and gave the car I was going to get to my favorited brother and saying no when I was trying. Then during all this, my ever so lovely aunt, who apparently thinks she's my mother too, had given mom the idea to get custody of me so I couldn't work and would be forced to get disability and listen to them forever, all because they wanted complete control. It didn't happen, even though they claim it's easy to do to anyone. Possible fear-mongering. Now, I've had a job finally, and have gotten over the trauma/ED my family had no part in helping me recover from, and they now get upset because I never invite them over. Wonder why. My mother then spoke to me today about my aunt apparently wanting her to come into my house to check if it was clean before they moved a new couch I'm supposed to be getting in, which was incredibly hurtful. Thankfully, mom said she wouldn't, but given how she is, I don't trust her that much, period. Since I do pay rent and such, I'm going to tell the landlord in the morning to not give her a key of any kind. Since she's not on my leash, she can't anyways, but it's a just-in-case deal. Story 14. My mom is obsessed with guys. I, 15F, have a tough relationship with my mom, 54F. All she has ever cared about are guys. I mean, yeah, She provides for me, and I have everything I need. But she spends all her extra money for gifts and dates with all these random guys she meets on Plenty of Fish. I can't even count how many boyfriends, or in her words, friends, I've met of hers. One time, she said a guy was coming for a visit, and I was pissed because I knew what was coming next, and she assured me he would be gone the next day. The next day was very important because it was my high school freshman orientation, and I didn't want some random guy to be there. Sure enough, he didn't leave the next day, and in fact was there for the next 3 months before she kicked him out. It really hurt because your first day of high school and your freshman orientation are big things, and having some random guy in the pictures makes me upset because it was a family thing. Now, all I remember about freshman orientation and my first weeks of high school are I was freaked out by her boyfriend and stayed in my room the whole time. She's moved guys in with us and moved us in with guys more times than I can count. The guys always come first, never me. I just want it to be me and her because all these random guys make me uncomfortable. I'm just seeking validation because whenever I bring it up, we argue because she says I don't want her to be happy. But that's not the case. She just moves too fast with guys and brings them to close family events after knowing them for 2 days. I just want to know, are my feelings valid? Story 15. My mother is strangely into my sex life. At first I thought all parents are like this. It started last year when she accidentally heard my ex and I talking very NSFW on the phone. Next morning, she wanted to know all the details. I was uncomfortable, but I thought it was normal. I think I should add that she came out as asexual to me. Fast forward to now. I've just started seeing someone new, and we went out together. She knew because he came over to pick me up. She wanted to know if he tried anything with me, if he kissed me or hugged me. Again, I thought she was just being a mother, but then she insisted on seeing pictures of us. I told her they're private because he's kissing me in a few. She got even more eager, didn't give up till she finally saw them. I told my friend about this, and she said it's definitely not normal. This woman is a total bitch, but I don't know if she's also sick that way. Story 16. My mom wants to cure my asexuality. Hoo boy, here we go. I, 18F, just came out to my mom as asexual. Her reaction? She wants to put me on hormones to increase my sex drive. This is actually so dumb. My mom is a hardcore Christian who believes that premarital sex is pretty much the worst thing you can do. Yet when I tell her that I have no desire to have sex, she wants me to still want to? This is the same woman that hates trans people and is disgusted when trans kids are put on hormones, yet she wants to put me, her adult daughter, on hormones because she thinks I should want sex but also not have sex. I couldn't make this make less sense if I tried. Update. Today we were talking about college and she goes off on a tangent that was essentially her repeatedly going, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex. I don't even know what she wants anymore. Story 17. I'm, 29F, being pressured into marriage. I escaped home last year, yes, escaped, and it has been the best decision I have ever made. NGL. At the beginning I doubted everything because I only knew one reality, but as time has passed, I know for certain I have made the right decisions. After a certain age in my community, you are considered expired basically, and I didn't want to play that game. I have always felt there are so many men. Why should I only have access to the ones in the community specifically? What if I never got married? I spent years waiting for something that seemed that was never going to happen, and dating is such a scandal here. My family doesn't speak to me unless it's to criticize me or talk bad about me. Personally, I believe it's a them problem. Since I left, I haven't spoken a bad word about any. In fact, I forget most of them exist, most of the time. But I have definitely lived how I have wanted, and I'm proud of what I have achieved, even if they aren't, and keep on repeating it. For that, I have been labeled selfish, self-centered, conceited, and so on. I have been dating someone, non-Muslim, that has been wanting to convert, and someone in his family posted a few pics, and it all blew up. So my parents reached out to me wanting to propose a few things, that if I really wanted to get married to him, we have spoken about it and he has been wanting to convert, that they would marry me religiously, so that at least people wouldn't talk bad about me, but if I went ahead, they would be hurt for the rest of their lives, and we wouldn't have the same relationship as before. And not expect them to engage with him, because it would likely never ever happen, and that they have their reasons not to do so. And if I was to marry him, to wait 3 years before getting pregnant in case things didn't work out, I could divorce him amicably. But if I wasn't a 100% sure, they don't know but I am not. Not because he's not great, but we aren't much compatible. Marriage is not what they sold me. ANF, it requires a lot of work, and I'm not ready to be a housewife just yet, if ever. I waited to do things right, and for me to meet a nice boy, live in their place, and to get integrated into the family and family business again. It wouldn't prohibit me going out again like before, and blah blah. It all sounds like BS and manipulation to me. And what should be exciting, getting married, they have been dull. And at this point, I don't even want to be or get married to anyone. It always seemed like a nightmare. And these are the moments I remember why. I'm not giving my freedom up, and I'm not going to do things their way and go back to the hole I worked so hard to crawl back from. It just seems that every time I engage with anyone here, I am made to feel like the villain of the story. I thought I'd missed my family, but I saw them a few days ago, and I felt nothing. It feels like everything is just the same for them, but for me it isn't. Story 18. Me, my sister, and the narcissistic egg donor. So I'm writing this as less as a Reddit post, and more of a personal story and some venting, but to paint a picture before getting into the main thing. Number 1, she's an alcoholic. Number 2, she has issues. Number 3, she's a narcissist, as per the title. Number 4, she constantly, endlessly verbally abuses and libelly abuses my dad. When I was 14/15ths of a year old, this being 15/16ths of a year ago now, the egg donor texted my dad and claimed that I called her a "see you" next Tuesday. When I, at 14/15ths of a year, number 1 didn't know what 1 was, and number 2 was a well-behaved lad in secondary school, and when confronted, didn't apologize to me, or my dad just acted like she did nothing wrong. This is just one example of the many things that she's done over the years. Here is where we begin. Some might read this and think that I'm holding a grudge from over a decade and a half ago, but the stuff that she has said and done over the years has brought me and my sister to the point that she is dead to us. In my case, she has been for the last 15 years. For my sister, it was a last few years thing. Today, my sister received some money from the egg donor and refused to accept it, instead sending it back as she doesn't want anything to do with the abusive piece of garbage. My sister, who is happy in a relationship with one of the most down-to-earth, based, likable people in the world that I've had the joy of meeting, said that she didn't want to accept the money because she didn't want the egg donor to make posts on FB about her accepting her money but not talking to her, even though the drunkard blocked her on FB after she got called out by my sister regarding something involving my dad, and that she's abusing her by not talking to her but taking her money anyway. This coming from someone who would get drunk at every hour of the morning anytime she had time off from work. This coming from someone who would get drunk on a weekday while she has work, while her kids are at school, and be passed out when they got back, resulting in my sister, the oldest of the children, having to step up and be the mother figure she could never be. According to my dad, she was ranting and raving as she always does, wondering why none of her children love her, and acting like she's the victim in all of this. The pissant drunk would lock my sister in her room for talking back to her. The pissant drunk would talk to anyone unfortunate to be considered her friend and insult her children, insult her husband to said friend without a second thought, and play the victim afterwards when said children only wanted a mom, and her husband did everything, even defending her awful drunk insults that never end. I won't shy away from this next part, but what happened to me a few months ago was a joint effort on my anger getting the better of me and her inability to be a decent human being, drunk or sober. Me and my dad got into an argument regarding said donor, while she was smirking behind his back, eyes red and wasted from the 17+ binge fest she takes part in on a weekendly basis. Maybe weekdaily basis. The argument got heated, and after my dad said something about learning that my actions have consequences, I approached the living room door, pointed at a broken glass panel on it, said I know that my actions have consequences, and unintentionally put my hand through a glass panel while aiming for the wood of the door on it, severing the tendon and damaging some nerves. I realize I alone am at fault for that, but her drunk desire to have be as miserable as her, because of her upbringing, is not on me. This, as well as the homophobic, transphobic, racist comments she spews, because of course a narcissist would have those worldviews, is why me and my sister no longer have a mom, only an egg donor. My sister has given the donor chance after chance after chance, but the donor pisses it all away because she can't get over the fact my sister is happy without her, successful without her, and more importantly, happy in spite of her. I apologize for the lengthy post. I just wanted to get the word out that despite what people think, you have a choice in who is and who isn't your family. The drunkard stopped being a parent to me when she lied, got my dad to get in my face and shout at me, and refused to apologize for it. For my sister, it was her opening up old wounds. I don't know how many of you reading this are in a bad situation. I don't know how many of you feel like you have to get along with your parent for the sake of the other, but you always have a choice. My sister tried to make a familial relationship work, but the drunkard only wanted it on her terms, saying, I don't care what you do, so long as you love me regardless. You always have a choice on who is or isn't your family. If any of you are in a situation where your egg donor or sperm donor is abusing you, stay strong. You're better than them. Story 19. It feels like my entitled mother has won again. I've just gone back home after being gone for about 5 days, staying with my partner and his family. They were the best 5 days I've ever had. My mother threatened to go to my partner's house to get me. I explained over text. I get emotional when I speak verbally while mad, why I hadn't been home, and that I wasn't criticizing her. I just needed space and time to recoup. I asked if she could not get upset at me, but rather hold space to hear me. In return, I got scathing messages where she called me a pussy, a bad daughter, and an entitled and ungrateful person. Those were the nicer titles she called me. As soon as I got home, my entitled mother started an argument between us over me being a pussy or whatever. Check my latest post before this one. And as soon as I said I'm moving out, she became softer and said she didn't want me to leave because I'm all she has. She said she wanted to try again and to give her another chance because I gave my BF another chance. If I can give him chances, why can't I give them to her? After all, I did birth you, she said. See, the difference is, in my relationship with my BF, we broke up because of her and her influence over us, which wore down our mental health because I was at her beck and call. But I've shut that down. Plus, when I've brought up things I didn't like, he changed and grew. I've been asking her to change and grow for about 8 years now. She does it for a week and goes right back to what she was doing. She then went on to say, I want to change her and I want to make her bow down to me, which is stupid because she's that parent and I'm acting like a child. I told her that I didn't want to change her. I wanted her to want to change herself for the better. But I knew she wouldn't. She tells me I should just take all her deep and hurtful insults as venting because they're just words and I'm too soft. I've realized I'm not too soft. I'm actually a normal person experiencing abuse. It's normal for a child to place seriousness on the words of their mother, especially if that mother is a single mother who's been invested in every part of your life and taught you to fear her above all else. So of course I would take those words seriously, especially with the emotion she put into them. Anyway, she started to cry and get upset, saying she can't have me leave because she needs me here and I'm her only child. My siblings are actually my cousins we've been raising since they were babies. That she needs my support, that she promised to get better. That made me feel sick because it felt like her love and care for me only materialized because I was about to leave. I hate saying this, but I felt she looked pathetic and small. She said if I left, I'd regret this day and all the hurt I'd cause. I rolled my eyes and began packing. I didn't care for her apologies. They didn't feel genuine. Then my seriously ill grandfather, he has just been diagnosed with cancer and has had a hip surgery last month, came out of his room begging me not to go. I didn't know he was home. I am his world. And he had no idea my mother and my other family members were treating me like this, as he's always in and out of hospital and appointments. He got down on his knees, which he shouldn't have done, and sobbed. I've never seen him cry before. He yelled at my mother, told her to stop swearing at me and treating me like that, begged me not to go because I'm his baby. I didn't see his actions as narcissistic, but rather just the love of a grandfather. He helped to raise me essentially, and I've always been really close to him. He spoiled me growing up and took the place of my absent father. I love him so very much. His reaction made me more mad at my mother. If she wasn't so terrible to me, if she didn't treat me like shit and make me feel like a burden, I'd find no reason to want to leave, and we wouldn't be in this position. I couldn't do it, so I stayed for him. I feel ashamed because it feels like she won in some way. However, I made it clear to my family that I'm only staying for him and my siblings, that whenever it is that he goes back to his home country, I'm moving out. I won't give them the satisfaction for blaming me if things go further south with him and his health. That I'll be staying with my partner more often and will only be around for my grandfather and my siblings and will not be engaging in other matters. What do I do now? I know I seem to ask that question a lot on my posts, but this is all a new journey for me. I'm used to just enduring it, and now I'm fighting back. I'm not believing my mother and the things she says. This is all uncharted territory for me. I intend to keep my word. What do I do moving forward? How do I make this more bearable? How do I improve myself? I don't know when my grandfather will be leaving, but how do I prepare myself to go? How do you think I'm handling things? What are your tips/advice you have that I may have missed? How do I stop feeling like she won again in this situation? Story 20. My mother won't let me be financially independent and take a close look at my bank account daily. Salam, I need some advices. I'm fed up. I am working 2 jobs as a teacher in 2 different schools while working to get my master's degree. Both of my salary are put in a saving account so we could move out and get a house. The rest is given to her because she struggles financially. When I am paid 1,500 euros in a month, I give her 400 euro, send the rest to my saving account, and keep for myself 100 euros. And in his amount of money, I have to pay for my food at work, college, etc. Now here's the thing. I love games, video games. I buy myself some games and packs for about 50 euros. And sometimes I treat myself with some goodies from AliExpress so I don't pay much and have stuff. She hates it. She checked my bank account regularly. She made me swear on the Quran to stop doing it. I had to swear without my consent. I was tired of this, and I wanted some games for Xmas, so I bought them along with some packs. I no longer wanted to obey about how to use my own money. She lost it, called me a sinner, saying I'll lose Allah's love forever for lying after swearing. That pissed me off. I fasted, I pray, and when I have money, I give it to people's in need. I help pay the bills I paid when my brother went to jail. And yet, I'm the sinner? I swore on the Quran, because I was forced by her. I live with her, and don't have another place to live, but at this point I'm looking for apartments because this is getting ridiculous. Not to mention, sometimes I do pay until I'm in negative to treat her with flowers, pastries, presents, etc. Will I go to hell? I don't want to go to hell. I love God, I believe in Him, but I don't want to keep this promise I made when I didn't even wanted it. It's just games. She said I can't manage my money. She is taking notes daily on my bank account numbers, so she knows daily if I had paid for anything. Am I in the wrong? Edit. Thanks everyone for the comments, advices, and support. I had officially changed my bank account and she doesn't know, and I'm currently on the list of several apartments. She also doesn't know that. Also, I'm saving to buy a gaming setup. Screw what she thinks. I feel at peace now knowing I didn't do anything wrong. Thanks again. You guys opened my eyes, and I know it won't be completely easy, and I'll have to deal with her probably seeking for me, but now I made up my mind. Thanks again. I hope you all get happiness and peace. Story 21. Lazy entitled stepmom and dad. I tore my right meniscus last weekend skiing while getting off a ski loft. Now, after getting it checked out at urgent care, the doctor advised me to rest and stay off it for at least 2 weeks. I have some crutches at my dad's house, so I called him yesterday and told him my situation and asked for him find them for me because I'd like to use them. He said sure, no problem. He'd look for them and let me know. He lives about 30 to 45 minutes away, depending on how bad traffic is during the evenings. Later that evening, my dad and stepmom call me. She talks in the background making comments because he cannot talk to me alone now, saying he found the crutches. She then makes a joke saying, "Oh, when are you gonna come get them?" Which threw me off guard, and I go, well, that's funny coming from someone who is at home all day and never leaves the house. Obviously my dad didn't like that, told me to chill, and brushed it off, giving a front. He then asked me if my husband was going to stop by on his way home from work to get them. I said I never even considered asking him, and it's too late to ask now. I then said, I don't think it's fair that you're wanting someone who's injured to drive all the way to you to come get these crutches. My stepmom then turns around and goes, wow, you clearly don't know us anymore. That was rude. I never did state I wanted the crutches right away. Told him not to bother coming if it was too inconvenient and traffic would be bad. He said he'd let me know. He then calls me in HR later and asks if it's okay he comes another time. I said, yeah, that's totally okay. I'm not upset about that, more so about them making those jokes and asking me when I'm coming. He said in the kindest tone that they were just messing with me because that's what they do. I should know that. In retaliation to their own game, I told him my comment to my stepmom was a joke and that she should suck it up like he always tells me to. He didn't like that. Yes, they've always been like that, but doesn't mean I have to tolerate it or like it. I feel like it's a hidden emotional abuse tactic. I probably shouldn't have retaliated. I don't ask them for much because it's always some stipulation or emotional abuse tactic. Plus, I'm the one who 95% has to make the effort. I don't like to go to their house alone because my stepmom says weird shit, and then my dad always sticks up for her, saying she's mentally ill and I need to suck it up. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unreasonable and my comment was rude. Story 22. Mom and sister angry when I refused to babysit. This happened many moons, nearly 20 years ago, but the audacity of those in the story remains. They still bring this issue up from time to time. At the time this story took place, I was homeschooling my 3 boys, 7, 4, 2, and had an infant daughter, 5 months. I found out I was pregnant with my daughter months after she announced her pregnancy, and was immediately berated by my mother as to, why can't you let your sister have her moment? When my mother was well aware of our plans to add a 4th child to our family at a specific time. As it happened, my daughter is 7 months younger than my nephew. I had originally offered to babysit him and breastfeed him because of my sister's finances for free while she went back to school to finish her master's degree. When my nephew was about a year old, sister opted to wait on school. I was asked if I would watch my nephew for a few hours. I said okay, as long as he is picked up at the agreed upon time since I needed to run my school day. We usually worked on lessons in the morning until early afternoon, but I was willing to shift down for the day. My mom and my sister agreed to this and dropped nephew off at 8 a.m. with a promise to pick him up at noon. 11:30 comes around and this child starts crying. I know nothing about his medical issues, so I try to feed him the lunch packed by his mother. He ate 3 bites and refused more. I put the food away and offered a bottle. The breastfeeding option was off the table at this point. 45. And this child is still crying. I've changed his diaper, offered food and drink. I'm holding him, and he still won't stop crying. My 5-month-old joins in wailing. I tried to put her down in her crib and she wailed louder. We later learned she had infant GERD. So I'm now sitting on the floor with 2 wailing babies who won't let me put them down for their own reasons. I kept looking at the clock and telling myself I can hold on for another 15 minutes. All while this is happening, my ex-DH was working from home, so I'm doing my best to manage 2 screaming babies while he's working in the next room. I had given the boys some random activities to keep them out of trouble. 12 o'clock rolls around, and my sister and my mom have not arrived as agreed. This was unusual for them since they were always early for things. I call my sister's cell, straight to voicemail. I call my mom's cell, straight to voicemails. So I called my sister's cell again and left a message. I ended up calling every 15 to 20 minutes and leaving a voicemail on both cells because my mom and my sister decided to turn off their phones and do whatever because they didn't have the baby with them. 6 o'clock comes around and they are finally pulling into my driveway. I found out that they went shopping in another town. I'm livid. My nephew is beet red from crying for nearly 6 hours. I answered the door and without a word handed over the baby and his diaper bag. I walked his car seat out to their car and walked back inside the house, turned off the porch light, and locked my door. Edit 1. My boys missed school that day because I wasn't able to console the 2 babies. I also had to have the older boys make lunch for themselves and their brother due to being incapacitated by someone else's kid. I routinely wore my daughter to get chores and school done. My mom had the audacity to ask a couple of weeks later if I would watch my nephew. I simply said no. When she retorted that I had been willing to watch him on a regular basis, I told her that that was before she and my sister abandoned him at my house and turned off their phones, leaving me no way to contact them in case of an emergency. They still bring up that I went back on my offer, without taking any responsibility for their part. Actions have consequences, and they FAFO on this one. Edit 2. Since this is a recurring question in the comments, I am going to address it here. I don't choose to continue contact with either of my sisters or my mother. The snide comments get made on the occasions when they feel I should be included in a group chat containing the 4 of us. My other sister agrees with our mom and GC sister, Harry. I have removed myself from many such group chats. I don't initiate contact. I get pulled into group chats about my mom's hospital visits because no one in my extended family believes in LC or NC situations. I read the texts and go about my way. Edit 3. This is not a current situation. This happened nearly 20 years ago. My nephew's father was out of the picture before the baby was born, so he didn't even know what was going on. My mom helped my sister raise her kid with disastrous effect. My boys only homeschooled, 3 years total, due to the poor quality of the school we were zoned for, and private school was not an option for us. They were involved in proper socializing activities and integrated well into public school once we moved to a better district. I opted at the time to refrain from calling the police or CPS because this was a first-time occurrence and I didn't know if something had happened and they were in trouble. Given it was new behavior, I gave the benefit of the doubt. Given my GC sister's sordid past, CPS would have had a field day with the situation, and I would have been blamed. I instead opted to keep the child in my care and refused to watch him again.